Hello friend, accounting ratio, second group, that is we can say that B. Four classifications accordingly. A, we have already seen liquidity ratio. Now B, solvency ratio. There we try to focus. Solvency ratio, in short we can say that firm's ability to meet the long-term liability as and when that due. And apart from that, interest cost that should be regularly, repayment is required, regular interest cost that should accordingly, that's factor they require to consider. And whenever the long term debt, long term liability matured, how they are going to pay. All these things we are going to observe in solvency ratio. Here again we have the four type of ratios. First, debt equity ratio. Second, total assets. 2, debt ratio. Third, proprietary ratio. Fourth, interest coverage ratio. See that, take the example when debentures are due. At the time of issue of debentures, firm company declare that 5 years, after 5 years company is going to repay the amount. How that should, and that come under the category of solvency ratio. Take the example, debenture issued for 5 crores. So after 5 years company required to pay the 5 crore. How they are going to pay, at par, at premium, and what is their financial position, how they are going to raise the funds. All these things we are going to observe in solvency ratio. Anyway, let us see the first ratio in these groups, that is debt equity ratio. Debt equity ratio means shareholders fund and outsiders fund. Debt means long term debts and equity means shareholders fund, or we can say that net worth. Here long term debt, in short we try to see the combination of shareholders investment, shareholders fund and outsiders funds. That combination, that relation we try to observe. Here the formula is given, debt equity ratio, debt upon equity, or we can say that long term debts divided by shareholders fund, or we can say that net worth. Now let us see long term debts. Long term debts, meaning itself clearer, long term means 5 years and more than that, that is called long term. Here long term debts examples are given: debentures, mortgage loan, bank loan, loan from financial institutes and public deposit, etc. These are the examples. Now about the shareholders fund. Shareholder funds, it includes share capital and reserves and surpluses. Share capital means equity and preference share capital. Reserves and surpluses, it include capital reserve, security premium, general reserve and profit and loss account credit balance. Okay. Now let us see with the problem. Here formula is debt equity ratio, debt upon equity. We have taken the, I said that figures like this: long term borrowings and long term provisions. Long term borrowings amount 2 lakhs, long term provisions 1 lakh, total 3 lakh. Sorry, गड़बड़ हो गई हमारी. हाँ, long term debts, long term borrowings that we find 1 lakh and long term provision 50,000, total 1 lakh 50,000. And shareholders fund, equity share capital and reserves and surpluses. Equity share capital 2 lakh and reserves and surpluses 1 lakh, total 3 lakh. In short, debt equity ratio, debt upon equity, debt 1,50,000 and 3 lakh. 1,50,000 divided by 3 lakh, ratio is 0.5:1. Anyway, with the more details, we'll try to see in next problem. Thank you very much.